I have an important lecture for you today. Or in this lecture, we are going to like shift between Hindi and English a little bit because it's very important for you to get the point properly, and a lot of these things can only be conveyed in Hindi. So, for example, you see generally these days a lot of sentiments everywhere for from people who are living in India, people who are living abroad, and things like that. And that is, बाहर ऐसा क्या है जो अपने देश में नहीं है? What special things are available outside India which you don't have in India, right? So this is more like a sentiment कि बाहर जाके क्या मिलेगा, बाहर जाके जो है ऐसी कैसी जिंदगी जी लेगा कि तू अपने देश को भूल जाएगा, अपने परिवार को भूल जाएगा, वो सब कुछ मतलब this is a lot of like emotional things that you have to like deal with when you're thinking about going abroad. And this is really like starting from a very early age. And all of these photographs that I've taken, these are all just random photographs I picked from Google Images. So I do not mean disrespect to anybody who is visible in these photographs, whatever, right? तो जैसे स्कूल जाना स्टार्ट करते हैं तो पता चलता है कि यार ठीक है, मतलब you can see all of these beautiful sceneries and different kind of English movies, things like that, right? Like you see a lot of Bollywood movies, you see a lot of Hollywood movies, and you see all of these beautiful places that are there which exist outside this country. Very, very nice because like you're having essentially an exposure. You're not in North Korea, right? Because North Korea, like for North Koreans, there is no world outside North Korea. This is nice that you're able to see different kind of countries. You're able to understand what kind of different places are available on this planet and so on. And this helps you build options, right? Like because you only have one life, you want to make the best out of this life. You want to do whatever kind of things which are possible. So this is a great thing that this happens, that like, you had these kind of like movies, Pardes, Swades, and Namaste London, things like that, where they were showing how it was for an Indian who was living abroad. Now, the interesting thing was, almost in every single one of these movies, the plot always revolves around an Indian who is away, but he's not happy to be away. He always has this nostalgia about his own home country, and he always wants to come back somehow. And I find it extremely difficult to believe this because you still have so many Indians who are living abroad, who are staying abroad, who are not having the nostalgia of coming back. But the stories are not relevant if you make a story of some guy who just left India and he's like living abroad and he's absolutely loving his life, enjoys his life outside, he's well integrated, and he hasn't forgotten his values, but he also has completely adapted himself to the new culture, right? Like if you have a story like that, that is not dramatic enough. That is more of a real life scenario, and that's why you are not able to make a movie from that. But then you have all of these movies where every single Indian essentially has this longing to go back to India and do something and things like that. And I find this very interesting because these are the movies that all of our sanskari uncles and aunties, they watch these movies, right? They watch these movies and every single time they're like, yeah, you will go abroad and then you will start missing home country and then you'll come back anyways. What is the point of going abroad, blah, blah. And you, as somebody who is still in the school, you're still developing a brain for yourself. And a lot of these hopes and dreams and emotions, they just die off right there. And this is something I was speaking with my friend Kaushik. He's a Academy alumni and he's studying in TU Braunschweig right now. And we were just like really thinking about this, like how is it possible that we still have so many Indians like living abroad, but somehow the stories which we hear about Indians which are living abroad are completely different. Like it is always this other story of just them wanting to go away, them wanting to leave. Every single time like that story is highlighted so much more than any other story. Then the problems of your own country, then the problems of the society, then the problems of the money that you're making. Even recently, like we've started hearing these things like, yeah, but in India you're making so much money and things like that, which is again like, I don't understand like where these stats are coming from, because every single time I end up speaking with somebody where the person tells me that he's getting a full-time job after his bachelor studies, after a few years of work experience, whatever, for 20,000, 22,000 Indian rupees for a month, 6 days a week, you have to work. Sometimes I'm hearing stories of 12,000 Indian rupees. I was getting offered at that time 12,000 Indian rupees. So all of these things get forgotten completely. All of the positives of the abroad country gets forgotten. And then you're left with these kind of like melodramatic stories, which are very interesting. I mean, like, of course, if you wouldn't really like these movies wouldn't be successful if they wouldn't have a factor which relates to most of the people, right? So that's why like it is not something that like maybe these stories are not true, but like maybe this speaks to the personality, to a specific personality of that person who imagines himself that if he was abroad and this would have happened, then this would be happening. And in the end, anyways, I would be happy to go back to my own home country. So what is the point of going abroad anyways, right? So these are like really crazy, like feel good movies where they are trying to portray somebody who is abroad. So they're trying to portray your wish of you being abroad somewhere. So that's the kind of like narrative you're seeing a lot more these days. And let's just like peel out some of the layers of this onion, right? Now, when we are studying in our universities in India, whatever, all of our uncle, aunties, whatever, they have gone through a system of university and working and things like that, and where they're working with like other people and so on, right? And a very few, I would say like maybe 1%, 2% of these people, like, they go abroad. Like even that's like a crazy big number. Like maybe it's like 0.1%. They go abroad, and then you have the rest of the people who don't go abroad. Now I took some photographs from here because you shouldn't just think that like this is the India that you're having where like everybody's like, working in cities and working in offices, things like that. You have also the rural side of the India, right? So where you're like living in towns, you're living in villages, you're having a completely different belief systems. What do I mean by belief system? Belief system is essentially a set of values that you believe to be true. No? So for example, what could be some of the belief systems in villages? We know that. Like women shouldn't run around in jeans, women shouldn't run around showing their skin, women shouldn't be earning more than man, things like that. So you still already see a big contrast of the value beliefs which you're going to have when you're living in a village versus when you're living in a city, right? And you should not forget that the majority of India is still like, living in these kind of groups, these kind of systems where they're going to feel much more happy thinking about these movies and this character arc, that is me being abroad, me having to come back anyways. So what is the point of me moving when I have to come back anyways? What is the point of doing any effort? And I feel great about my life now after watching this movie. And then there are other people like who actually take the step of going abroad, right? So that's a minority. That's a crazy minority, and you don't even want to like, start thinking about it. So the people who didn't go abroad, like from there also you can always like branch these things down further and further, right? So the first one is going to be these are the people like who understand the problems of the society, and like unemployment and like the less money that you're making, the traffic, the roads, the bureaucracy, things like that, and they understand the problems of the society, of the system, and they want to go abroad or they want to send their children abroad, right? So that's again a very crazy minority here. And then you have the next one, which is buys into the propaganda of the media, right? Every single nice news, the entire world is only thinking about India. India did this, and Germany is scared of that, and US is scared of that, and Pakistan is scared of that, and like all of these things just like keep on boiling further and further and further, which is again the majority of the people who buys into the propaganda very easily. And this is true for every single country. This is not just true for India. This is true for almost every single country on this planet where the majority buys into the media. That's why it's called mass media. Like you're essentially having most of the people getting influenced by these few bigger channels, right? So what happens when you buy into this propaganda and people like who have never been able to go abroad and things like that, the idea of abroad, the idea of foreign countries and things like that from movies or from hearsay, right? Like, you just watch some movie, whatever, and like that's how the scenery looks like, that's how the people behave. And I think one of those movies was actually like pretty negative here, which was like, I'm proud to be an Indian. I just didn't understand it. If you ain't white, you ain't right, dude. Somebody did some bullshit here. Like I just did not understand when I was like seeing the poster of it. I remember watching this movie and I remember like how negative the portrayal was, that like essentially like every single white person is a Nazi, is a racist, and is like happy to beat you. And then an Indian and a Pakistani guy kind of teams up together and like, beats up the white people. Uh, and stuff like that, which is really not the norm. If that would be the norm, then Indians wouldn't be living abroad with their families, with their children, and children growing up in those countries, like speaking perfect, with perfect accent, German, French, English, whatever. So those kind of things wouldn't happen, right? So that's why, like, I don't buy that at all. Like, that is something I find extremely dangerous, but somehow this is the media, this is the movies, right? Like, these are the movies, and they're happy to show you these stories, but they're not happy to show you the other stories where some guy who also goes through the same character arc, goes to the school, goes to the university, gets offered a shitty job, finds a partner there, starts living there, and builds a life for themselves, and are very happy because that is not fitting their agenda at all. Now, why would they want you to come back, right? Why would they want you to come back to India? That's also a very interesting thing. Or like, why would they never want you to leave in the first place? Now, India is a really big country and you have a lot of people there, right? That means the more people you can avoid from leaving abroad, the cheaper it is going to be for businesses to be able to pay you. Because they can just say, yeah, you don't want to do for 20,000, you don't want to do what you don't want to do for 12,000, 10 more people lining up right behind you who can do this job for 12,000. So for them, it's a crazy incentive. Like, you have no idea how big the incentive is for a country which has such a large population to be able to keep the people in their own home country. It's a great thing. It's a very, very nice thing to do, because then you are able to just offer cheaper and cheaper and cheaper salaries to people, because you're having more people who just like never want to go abroad, never want to get used to a different kind of working environment, never experience Saturdays and Sundays off, never experience that you don't get called from like after 6 o'clock at night, in the evening, or before 9 in the morning, things like that. So you don't get used to those things, and when you don't get used to those things, then when you come back to India, you will not make a lot of problems, right? I mean, even if you come back to India, then you still have so many people. If you don't want to work in XYZ way, they're going to find somebody else, right? So it's very good for the movie industry, it's very good for the businesses, it is very good for the government in general that people don't leave, because they can afford to pay people less, and they can still make people struggle and suffer through the same systems that they have made. The reservation system that they made, the limited number of government jobs that they have put out, all of these things are playing right into it. And that is something that you have to like keep in mind. Now, on the other hand, like the same is the problem of the people who also go abroad, right? If you remember our schools, right? So if we take a look at an Indian school, right? And we see, maybe we can find, well, I don't know why my school didn't look like that. Let's take a look at this photograph, right? So you're in the school. Now you're working, you're sitting together, things like that. You always remember that like in our school, we used to have some people who are sitting always in the front. Maybe like, you're having a class of 60 students, 50 students. You're having like 10 students who are like really good, right? So like you're around 20% people who are like good at studying and like, want to push ahead, things like that. They're sincere. And then you have like people in the middle, and then you have people who like don't want to do much. Even from these 20% people, you would see like maybe the first 10%, 5% or something, they're the ones who are the most competitive. They just want to constantly like, be the best, be the first, this and that. And they really want to push ahead. That is true everywhere. That is true in this side of the area where like, people are not going abroad, and then you have people on the other side who go abroad, where you're having like 5% of the people who are always struggling, not struggling, but striving to be the best. How do you understand that? You can understand that by your school classes, right? You can just think about your school classes. There were always students who wanted to do better. There were students who didn't want to do that much and just wanted to get by. The same thing exists throughout your life. That is one thing that I really never understood, that, for example, just because you have finished a university or something, and everybody is, let's say, a doctor, like, you're having 100 doctors, that not every single doctor is going to have the same level of competence. There are going to be a very few minority of very good doctors, and there's going to be a vast majority of mediocre or not so great doctors. This is how the thing is in every single walk of life. You have a very tiny minority of very good carpenters, very good plumbers, very good stone sculptures, and you have the vast majority of people who are not good at doing what they do. So this is essentially like what continues in life, right? So like people who go abroad, who did well, they of course are again then further categorized into like, people who are integrated, people who are not integrated. Not integrated, I mean, sometimes they tell you that like in UK, even in Germany and so on, like you have sometimes these districts where like only one specific type of people are living. In Germany, you have some districts where only Turkish people are living, Syrians are living, Arabic are living. In UK, it's a crazy massive problem of like just districts which are completely just Pakistani, Indian, Punjabi, and so on. Like you have these communities, right? Like, and that is like, you went to that country, but you did not accept those, you did not mold yourself into those kind of like norms, the clothing style, eating habits, things like that. Like you just completely said, okay, like, I'm still going to do my own thing. And that's where the part of integration comes inside. That is, even when you're living in that country and you're living there for 10 years, 20 years, when somebody comes and sees you, they can still directly say, okay, like, you're from X country, you're not from this country. Because of your language, because of your clothing style, because of your speaking habits, things like that. So this is another thing that you have to keep in mind. Now, you have to remember every single time I'm talking about integration, it does not mean you forget your own things. It just means you're having one more, how do I say it? You have one more skin in the closet, right? So people who play computer games, like you can just like change your skin so quickly. And I personally find it to be such a great skill to have. You go to India, you have the skin of an Indian. You go to Germany, you have the skin of a German. You go to UK, you have the skin of a British. You go to US, you have the skin of a American. And these are very, very good things. And like that's why this phrase, like when you're in Rome, do as Romans do, was so popular, because this was something which was actually having a very positive influence in the lives of people who actually took this phrase to their heart and worked accordingly. So again, you have like people who are like, integrated, people who are not integrated. And then again, from those people who are integrated, the ones who encourage follow to others their path, to follow their path, it's very, very, very tiny, right? Who are vocal, who are happy about their life abroad. And they encourage you to come and follow them. They tell you how to do X, Y, Z so that you're able to come to that place where you are. I would love to know that. Like, I would love to, speak to some to some Indian who is in a massive company at a CEO position and so on, or like some very important positions, that they tell me like how that progress, how that path was, what kind of things they did, what kind of like actionable tips they can give you in order to go from A to Z. But then at the same time, you have the same story like I told you, that there are few people who do something and there's a vast majority of people who don't do something, or like are not happy doing it. Then of course there are people who are like, integrated, but yeah, they discourage others. They're still like having this kind of longing to go back or something, but nah, the life when I go back is not as great as life here, but I still want to complain because I am not happy in my life right now. People who are not integrated anyways, they will always just tell you like, yeah, like, it makes no sense to come here anyways, like, home is much, much better, all of those things. So that is something that you also have to keep in mind, that from all of these branches that we have taken, right, there's only one branch of people who are going to tell you something positive and are actually going to help you in getting to the place where you want to be. Most of the other paths which you're seeing, they unfortunately lead to just you being forced into staying at the place where you're at right now, right? It's going to be constant discouragement. It's going to be constant just telling you like, what is the point of going abroad anyways? Can you not do XYZ things here? People are also happy in India, things like that. I'm not saying people are not happy in India. What I am telling you is, you just have to think about this one thing, and that is that in life, you have only X amount of days, right? You have X amount of days, and if you have seen more things, you simply have more things to talk about when the life ends, right? If anybody has seen the Viking series, you remember very clearly how crazy the culture used to be of going to foreign lands and exploring things and doing conquests and things like that. All of those things were absolutely crazy, and I just like cannot believe that this just completely is so glorious and so positively seen in one culture, which is in Scandinavian culture. You can speak to anybody from Scandinavia or from Germany and so on. The thing that they appreciate the most is you being able to explore, you being able to go to different kind of countries, learn different kind of things, understand different kind of cultures. But at the same time, in our culture, it is like, why the fuck do you want to go abroad? Like, what's the point? Why do you want to explore? Why do you want to experience different things? That makes no sense whatsoever. Traveling is not the same as experience something. Like, all of these travel YouTubers you have, that's absolute bullshit. If you haven't stayed in a country for 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, you will not be able to understand the culture of the country. You will not be able to understand the language. You will not be able to learn the language in such a short time and so on. You're going for a 2-day trip, a week trip, 2 weeks trip or something, but that's nonsense. That's not how you learn things. These series that like so many people love to watch, it's from a different culture. And you can see how different culture treat the same things completely differently. In this culture, there could be nothing more glorious that you could do than exploring new countries, finding new lands, and bringing home the exploits. Whereas in our place, it's like, makes no sense. Just stay where you are and do XYZ and you'll be fine. So remember this very clearly. Remember, Ragnar, when you are thinking about moving abroad, when you're thinking about exploring something new. And remember all your uncle and aunties when you're thinking about staying in this place. And again, I'm only speaking to the people who want to actually move abroad, because there are also so many people who don't want to move abroad, and it's fine. Like, you can stay in the same place. Because many of these other people, they have this idea कि अगर मेरा नहीं बना तो इसका क्यों बनना चाहिए? They are not really happy to see you succeed. And there's like this kind of attitude, like, just like, how is it possible that he does something that I'm not able to do? That's 99.5 to 99.9% of the population. And then you have like 0.1 to 0.5% of the population who are successful, and they want to support and encourage you by saying, hey, I'm successful right now, let me help others too. That's a very, very small minority, and you can already see it like from all of the people that you know from in important positions, in CEO positions, managers, leaders, and so on. How many of them are actually vocal, coming out and telling you, hey, let me help you out with this? It's very, very less people. You don't find many people like that. So just know this. Next time somebody's like, putting up an argument for you, like, what is the reason you want to go abroad? What do we not have in our own country that you're going to find abroad? You can share some thoughts with them, right? Now, what I want at the end of this lecture is I want to hear your stories, right? I want to hear your stories about the things that you listen. I want to listen to the sentences. I want to listen to the dialogues. I want you to tell me a great story via email and just send it to me, because I'm very happy to read them. Because just like I shared with you this story, these kind of layers of different kind of people having different kind of motivations, different kind of belief systems, different kind of, cultural positives and negatives, for example, like I talked about in the Vikings culture and versus the culture that we have and so on. I want to hear your story. What kind of things have you heard so far about your story of coming abroad? What kind of ideas people have around you? What kind of things do they say, do they tell you, and so on? write to me. And I would be very happy to hear from you, because I think that will help me understand what kind of place you are in and how can I help you somehow. For this, you can write me an email at bharat@bharatingerman.com, and I would be very happy to read your email. Thank you so much for watching this lecture, and I will see you in the next video.